I've pressed go live, but I just want to make sure that we're actually live on, you know.
Is this like the last split second to say anything embarrassing just in case?
Yeah. So, what's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Side report back for a video. Apologies about the late start. Joining me is Michael from the CA podcast. So we're still waiting on Michael's co-host Dean having a little bit of tech issues there, but hopefully will be joining us very, very soon. So yeah, Michael, what's been going on? What's been happening?
Well, there's nothing going on in the world, right? I mean, the clock stopped, the clock stopped in March of 2020, and we're still waiting to restart it. It's the world is weird right now.
Yeah,
the world is very weird right now.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been vaccinated yet?
I haven't, but I have registered to get my vaccination. So yeah, I should hopefully. Oh, Dean's just popped in.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Hey, there he is.
How you doing, Dean?
All right.
See, you blue screen. That's why you buy a Mac, brother.
Yes, or just get my kids from stop installing stupidness.
There you go.
Because when I restarted, it said something about some dinosaur game that was, some extension was being disabled on Chrome because of a dinosaur game.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Well,
so
we're only live.
To my son when I get home.
Yeah, like I said, we're only live, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Steven, sorry. Yeah. So I'm old as dirt, so I've already been vaccinated. And Dean, you got your first dose?
Yeah, I got it done Thursday. So
right. Yeah. Okay.
Yesterday.
Yeah. So
day before yesterday. It's Saturday today.
Today's Saturday. Yeah, all day.
Yeah. So have both of you guys then? Have you been able to glasses free do the whole Google thing because of the Bill Gates microchip that's been put in the vaccinations? Are you guys able to just
porno links?
Yeah.
It's
just like beaming straight into your brain. Yeah, you don't even have to do the whole Google. You don't have to clear the history anymore. I mean, it's convenient in a way, but
and the hard part is that according to the Bible, if I've had lustful thoughts, I've already committed adultery in my head. So I mean, I'm doomed because but I've tried Bill Gates for sending the porno links, but it doesn't seem my wife doesn't seem to care. She's like, it's still your fault. So I've been sleeping on the couch for 7 days now, and so it's just the way things work out.
Have you been vaccinated there, Stephen?
I haven't. I have registered to be vaccinated, but I mean, I'm in my mid-20s, so I'm kind of down on the pecking order of the priorities. So Ireland's vaccine rollout has not been great at all. I'm pretty sure we're still making our way through people in their 50s, whereas England, I'm pretty sure it's down to people in their 30s, and they started at the same time. They started vaccinating people like in the same month, maybe not the same week, but I mean, even if it was, we should only be kind of just behind them, but we're really not. It's not great.
The rollout here in Canada has been a shit show as well. I mean,
they botched
we just got a bunch of AstraZeneca available to people, but it's been horrible.
Yeah, they botched it, and it's funny because I'm not sure whether or not it was federal or provincial that muffed it, but I mean, basically what happened was, and I don't blame. I want to be really clear that I don't blame anyone for taking the opportunity to get vaccinated, but I'm a front-facing essential worker, and there were people in Ontario that were able to get vaccinated before me who were stay-at-home mothers. So that's a botch on the government's part, right? And I'm not talking about people who were in higher risk categories, like with diabetes or asthma or things like that. Just people who just were able to register, and so it's not the individual's responsibility to say, hey, I should wait. If I had the opportunity, I'd take the vaccine too. But it's the government that should have said, whoa, guys, hang on, pump the brakes. It's not quite your turn yet. We have these other people that we have to take care of first. So, but it's all good now. I've got the first dose in my arm and everything's fine. No, but it's all good. And so, I'm not gonna complain.
I don't know why teachers aren't high up on the list for people who need to be vaccinated.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, they only deal with everybody's kids, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's absolutely
it's only everyone's, everybody's.
Yeah, exactly. So Stephen, this is your show. What do you want to talk about?
Well,
are we missing somebody?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so Kevin, my co-host, his internet is genuinely terrible. As in, like, for the last month, he's been getting less than 1 megabyte up and down. So,
wow.
Yeah, pretty fucking terrible. Yeah, and Leo, who did the debate with me on Monday, or not on Monday, on Wednesday, he had like a last minute thing where he had to go to his friend's house or something like that. I didn't really question it or whatever, but yeah, so it's just going to be us.
All right.
Kind of what I want to talk about. Did you guys watch Biden's? Was it the State of the Union address, or was it just some speech that he gave to Congress?
Yeah,
a couple of days ago.
Yeah, there's.
It wasn't a State of the Union. It was just
it was a State of the Union, but it was his first address of both houses of Congress. Which wasn't really both houses of Congress, right? Like normally at something like that, there's like 11 or 1,200 people, and I think there was like 150.
Yeah.
Just because of proper social distancing and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I caught a good chunk of it, and then I got the highlights on the news, and it's interesting. My main takeaway was, I mean. And I think I may have mentioned this to you before, Stephen. I have no delusions, and I don't think anyone should have any delusions that Biden is this, is this godsend, heap of perfection who's going to go in and do no wrong. He's a politician. He is not on the left. If anything, he's center to just leaning slightly to the right. So I mean, it's interesting that he's the Democratic president. But he's also not perfect by any definition. But he's trying. Like he really is trying.
And when you put him against the contrast of who was just there,
well,
right? So that's why he's coming out as good as he is, because of the contrast.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but just some of the reactions. I mean, I think that Ted Cruz's was probably the funniest. Where he put out a tweet and he was basically kind of saying that for anybody who missed the new socialist agenda that was coming from socialist just funny, but he summed it up he had said, if I could sum it up in 3 words, it would be boring but radical. Which, as a statement, just doesn't make sense. How can something be both radical and boring? Radical and dangerous, or radical and exciting? That I 100% get. But how can it be radical and boring? How?
It's the biggest oxymoron.
Statement. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, we are talking about Ted Cruz making this statement.
Yeah.
So, but I no, and I mean, I joke, not really, but it's
putting the moron in oxymoron.
Yeah, it seems that for people that are on the right, and I mean, I am exceedingly far left. It seems for anybody on the right, as soon as you start to talk about, I don't know, a government's responsibility to the citizenry. And spending anything more than $1.96, it's radical, socialist, leftist, communist, Marxist, blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The funny thing is that they've done polls after poll after poll, and they find out that things like healthcare for all, and even the Green New Deal, and some of the proposals in the Green New Deal are accepted and most of the population wants to do these things. Like 75% of Americans want healthcare for all.
Yeah.
And the Republicans just keep on going through this same loop of making it difficult for Democrats to vote so that they can stay in power. instead of changing their policies to align with Americans so that they'll get votes.
But this is the thing. I mean, it's sort of like a not identical version of history repeating itself. So when FDR died as president, when he was there for like 16 years or something like that, because he just kept getting fucking elected, the next Republican president who was president after him, he introduced the term limits because they very, very quickly realized that if people like FDR keep running, then they're always going to win and we're always going to lose. So like, like keeping that, but like now because they're trying to, introduce all of these like really like just terrible like voter laws and like the conditions around like when you can vote and like all of these things, it's sort of like a continuation of it more so than a what's the word I'm thinking of? Replication? Yeah, I don't even know if that's English, but anyway,
yeah, and I think I think one of the things you're referring to is now what has very clearly. I'm not I should get my wife up here. She got her undergrad in political science, but it's like what went on in Georgia, right? This now like where they basically passed laws to make gerrymandering okay.
Yeah.
And not only that, but then, like this whole, it really does turn into, from a voter perspective, the kind of pay to play, right? As soon as you make it, as soon as you put the restrictions on voting, like even something as stupid as you can't give voters water when they're in line, like, how about just being human? How about just being human, guys?
But I mean, they do that specifically because of like Black people and people of color that were waiting in line waited anywhere from 2, 3, 5, 10, 11 hours.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, we can't give them any food. But white people, here you're in your nice little 12-minute, 45-minute line. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then I mean, I'm sure that along with this, sometime, if it hasn't already and I missed it, will come the need for voter ID cards, which of course will have to be paid for. And they say, well, it's only X number of dollars. But the problem is that X number of dollars, even if it's a small amount, when you're living hand to mouth, like so many people in the U.S. do this unbelievable disparity between the wealthy and the poor. All of a sudden, $10, that becomes a big deal, and it becomes
it might as well be $1,000.
Yeah, and it's installing barriers to the voting process to guarantee themselves power, and they do it with a straight face and a smile on their face.
Yeah, it's why there's now this kind of like, I don't want to say like an underground push, but there's a push that I've seen, but it's not kind of reached like mainstream audiences, or like I don't think that too many politicians are talking about it, but it's why now there's this push for just a universal, when you turn 18, you get a free piece of ID, and it works for everything. So as soon as you turn 21, you can use that to go in and buy alcohol. Of course, I think that should be dropped to 18, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
The point is like a free form of ID that you get when you're 18, so that you can go in and vote. Like that's the ID that you use when you go in to vote. You get it for free. Like this whole idea that like, because they love talking about, I'm kind of veering off a little bit, but I kind of presume that you heard it because it went like fucking like everywhere. It was like it was just insane. Tucker Carlson went on this like big, like essentially just white nationalist rant on Fox News, which is crazy. But he said like the statement is like, one person, one vote. I was born in this country. I should be allowed to vote. And okay, taking away the whole kind of like the context that he said that in.
Yeah.
If that's his standard, that okay, make that like why are you then in favor or support politicians who bring in pieces of law, pieces of legislation that would stifle people from being able to vote? Like if that's your standard, if you were born in this country, you have the right to vote, okay, make that as easy as possible then.
Yeah.
Yep, because that's not what he wants.
No, of course it's not.
He wants only white people vote.
Exactly. So it's like one person, one vote, with an asterisk, right? Some conditions may apply.
Yeah.
And so what would the form of ID you're talking about, they do have in Canada. It's called the age of majority card. And you get that, and it's generic ID. And I think it's different for other provinces. In Ontario, it's just called the age of majority card, and it just has the Ontario symbols. Government of Ontario issue, has your picture, your date of birth, and that's it. And it's basically, this is government issued ID that is a one-stop shop. So I can use my age of majority card if I lose my license or my passport or my health card or my something else to get that ID replaced. It's just a general piece of photo ID, super simple. And yeah, like just issue that. It seems pretty simple.
But the Republicans know that if everybody voted, if it was one person, one vote, they would never win.
No,
yeah.
They know this.
No, yeah,
and
that's why they're in favor. That's why they're introducing, stifling laws around voting. That's why they're doing it, because they know that if it was one person, one vote, and if the US ever got 100% voter turnout, so like everybody who was eligible to vote voted, they would lose every single time. Every single time they would lose.
I mean, they keep saying, like, in the past X number of elections, they've only won once, and that was Bush Jr.'s second term. Even the first term was stolen, based on Florida, where his brother was governor or whatever. I mean, like, so he would have lost in the beginning. Like, he lost the popular vote for his first term, so he would never have gotten a second term. So Republicans do not get the majority of votes because of the stupid Electoral College. There you go. Now we have Republicans, running the country and filling a friggin' Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of why, there is this kind of larger push to abolish the Electoral College, but the likelihood of that happening is pretty slim, probably slim to none. But if they got rid of the college, just donezo.
There was a thing I was watching. I think it was on John Oliver, but he talked about how the states could basically just bypass the Electoral College completely. Like, if all the states got together and decided to not use the Electoral College, they could do that. But the thing is, you need to have a majority of states doing that, and there's not enough states that are willing to do that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
There's a way, legally, to just not do it, to just go around it.
Yeah, because even the election, the way it turned out, there's still a metric fuck ton of Republican governors and state politicians and all that other stuff, and they're going to do everything they can to stop something like that. I think what would happen, weirdly enough, and this is just my opinion, but if that was to be eliminated, and it just turned into a simple tally of a total number of votes, I think it would drag almost everybody closer to the center to try to be worthy of those votes. I think you would still have the radicals on both sides, but I think you would see more people gravitating towards the center, because I think most people are, and again, it's just my opinion, I think most people are in the center. Now, and just because they're in the center doesn't mean that they're necessarily for or against certain things. Like we talked about a few minutes ago, the fact that most people would be in favor of of universal health care. It's an absolute no-brainer. It costs less per capita than the private systems that are in place now. It's not rocket science, but I think that there's too much. Yeah, the Republicans won't let it happen because there's too much to be lost.
But the thing that I said before, which was said by a reporter somewhere, it's like they want to stay in power by affecting these voter suppression laws, and they want to keep on pumping their same old policies instead of changing their policies to align with their voters. Why don't you actually give the people that you're supposed to represent what they want, instead of saying, no, fuck you, you can't vote, I'm just going to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Like, that's not why you're there. You're not there to keep the status quo and to make sure that the wealthy become more wealthy and the poor become more poor. You're there to represent the people living in your state or your area, whatever it is, and, help them instead of yourself.
Those are just your communist views, Dean. Hey, Steve, I'm curious. How was your local reaction to the George Floyd verdicts?
How do you mean now? My local reaction, as in how did
from people where you are? How did they react? Like, what was there the same type of jubilation as there appeared to be kind of almost everywhere else?
I mean, sort of, yeah. So we were talking about it the week of in work and stuff like that, and then obviously when the conviction was announced, it was it was sort of just like a massive just a sigh, just like a weight had gone. But I mean, I was kind of explaining it to a few people in work because if there's I'm kind of known in work as that guy of if there's anything to do with American politics that they don't really know about, that they'll just ask me about, because I'm just kind of freakishly involved in it for someone who's living in Ireland. It just doesn't affect me at all. But
Sure.
I was kind of saying that since 2005, there has only been 12 police officers who have been convicted on some form of police brutality or something akin to that. That have been since 2005. If you give me 5 minutes, I can Google 12 people who are guilty of that just this year. So I was trying to explain to them, obviously we can all see he was 100% guilty. He was undeniably guilty, but that doesn't mean that they were actually going to convict him. So it was, it was literally just a deep sigh of just relief.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I remember hearing a similar statistic, and I can't remember the exact number now, but it was like 12 that had been convicted, and an incredibly small number that had even been charged in the first place. Mm-hmm. And I remember watching. I was fortunate enough to be off the day that the verdicts came down, and so I watched. Sat there kind of like on the couch. My wife and I both did, just sitting there biting our nails, waiting. And just before the verdicts came in, they were talking. I was watching CNN, and Van Jones was one of the commentators, and I think it was Anderson Cooper. One of them just said, "How are you feeling right now?" And he said, "Afraid to hope." And that really that struck me. That struck me. He said he went on to say, he's like, all these people, all of these Black people in America, and in fact all around the world, they woke up this morning too scared to hope. Even though, like you said, I mean, fucking open and shut. The trial should have lasted as long, as the video did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then it should have just been over and done with. And there are, all kinds of people who were. I remember I watched large portions just because of my work schedule. I was able to watch large portions of the trial, and I didn't feel bad for Chauvin, not for a nanosecond, but there were times when I did feel bad for his lawyers, because I mean, it's being on the Titanic and being handed a little sand pail, right? Saying, do your best. And what they had to try to argue. And it was hard because I tried not to get mad at them for some of the, and again, not being a legal mind, but some of the ridiculous arguments they were putting forward. But they had nothing else. They had nothing. It's like, this is all we got. We got to do something. So let's say it was a heart attack, or let's say it was the fentanyl in his system, or let's say it's something. Even though every doctor that came, except for the one, Dr. Nick, that the defense managed to drag out from retirement to say, oh no, it was definitely a heart attack. everybody was just like, nope, nope. The pulmonologist, all these other people are like, they laid it all out. This is what it was. Um, they, one of the things for me that was kind of like a slap in the face for the defense team was when one of the doctors was asked why he didn't put anything about George Floyd's heart into the coroner's report, like into the autopsy report. And he sat on the stand and said because there was nothing noteworthy about his heart. There was nothing abnormal about it.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't something we needed to talk about. And I was just like, damn. And because that was one of the things.
My screen's just going to go black here for a second, guys. I'm going to try and set up my laptop.
Anyway, and so because that was one of the things that the defense was really counting on, like, oh, it had to be his heart, right? It had to be his heart or something else in his system, right? Because it obviously wasn't this guy kneeling on him for 9 minutes. Like, that wasn't it.
No, couldn't have been.
So it was.
They had even tried to say that it was the fucking fumes from the exhaust of the car. Like it could be it could be anything. It could be absolutely anything. It could have been a guy that was over the street that fucking picked his nose and then like looked up at the sun and got blinded for a second. It was him rather than just anything other than what it actually fucking was.
Did you hear the rebuttal about why it couldn't have been the exhaust fumes?
I didn't actually hear it. I was kind of the same as yourself. So I was in a few positions in work where I could listen to the trial, but like even though I had it in my ears with the like earbuds, the same ones that I'm wearing like right now, actually, like I was only kind of like 50% listening and 50% concentrating on what I was doing. So,
in Minnesota, those police vehicles are hybrids. So the internal combustion combustion engines would shut off. So he would never have had constant exposure to the carbon monoxide.
Shit, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. That was one of the rebuttals by the prosecution to like when the defense said, "Oh, it could have been this." The prosecution rebutted it with the expert testimony saying these vehicles are actually hybrid vehicles, and so the internal combustion engine shuts off periodically.
So it literally couldn't have been that.
It couldn't have been that. It couldn't have been that, unless Chauvin would have been bagging the CO2 and forcing that down George Floyd's airway. So it was. I was of course happy. I'm very, very nervous about the sentencing. But
yeah.
But the judge certainly seemed to be above board, to the best of my knowledge. So I'm nervous. I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic that they won't, that the judge won't let something like this go. And they've said that there's got to be all of the reports about mitigating circumstances and aggravating factors and all that other stuff. So there's lots of things that have to go into that. And my hope is that he'll compile all those things, look at it and say, yeah, okay, what's the most we can hit him with? Yeah, that. But who knows? Oh, there he is. He's back.
Yeah,
there we go.
I watched the conviction or the jury's result. It was on Vosh's stream. He was live streaming it, and it was. I have the little bit there. Like this is like collectively how he reacted to it, but like how I genuinely think so many people reacted to it. He just did this.
Yes. Members of the jury, I find that the verdicts as read reflect the will of the jury and will be.
Is that playing? Can you guys hear that?
It is. Yeah, it's playing.
Yep. It's just slow.
It looks like it froze.
Can you guys hear it though?
It looks like it froze. You have to.
No, it didn't freeze.
We can hear it. Yeah.
Hang on, we can hear it there because. Oh, okay.
They were just going to say
I actually couldn't hear
members of the jury.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Shoot, give me a sec. Oh, I'm so bad at technology. Give me 2. This is such a fucking like I don't like. What's the word I'm trying to? What's the phrase I'm trying to think of?
Clusterfuck?
I don't know. Anyway, this.
Oh, you went robotic there for a second.
Oh,
there you are. Oh, frozen. It's frozen breakdancing.
There's a problem with the Ireland's internet.
Oh shit! Am I still frozen?
No, you're
no,
good.
You're better now.
You're better now.
Am I good now? Oh yeah, I
Yep,
have a little. Why do I have a little Wi-Fi? Why do I have a Wi-Fi thing? I'm connected to the fucking Ethernet. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, just like Vosh is just yes there. I genuinely think that that's just how like the vast majority of people kind of like felt in that moment where it was like. But what so many people were saying was that he didn't have like in that moment he didn't have you know he didn't have regret, he didn't have remorse, he didn't have like he wasn't upset, he was confused because
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
it's become this staple of cops can just do whatever the fuck they want, they can just kill people willy-nilly and they will get away with it. And so it was just such a break from normalcy that like he, even after the entire trial where basically fucking everybody was on the exact same page apart from that one Dr. Nick, who I can't say quickly and not think of the Simpsons character.
Exactly.
But like just the fact that everybody was on the same page and yet he still thought that he was gonna walk. Like it's just yeah.
Well, history's a bitch, right?
Mm.
And so I mean he was sadly justified in his thinking, and so that shock is genuine because of, well, like you said before, right? Since 2005, only 12 convictions, right?
Yeah.
Anybody can do a Google search and can see how many police-related shootings there are. And all that kind of stuff. My wife and I spent actually a good amount of time talking about this, and it's just a different mentality here. I don't envy any law enforcement officer's job. It's not an easy job. In the US, I especially don't envy them because everybody's got a fucking gun. And so it is. I'm not trying to justify police shootings in any way, shape, or form because you sign up for that job. You say you're going to do that job. So if you can't do it, you shouldn't do the job. But I certainly understand why tensions are so high. You go into a situation and you have no idea how many, like, so you're one officer, two officers, who knows, or maybe as many as a handful. And you go into a situation and you have no idea outside of the guns you have, how many guns are there. And it's got to key everybody up. So I don't envy their position, but it's certainly not an excuse, and it doesn't even apply to George Floyd because he didn't have a weapon on him. So, but it's a very weird thing. I don't envy their position, but if you don't want to do that, life's too short. If you don't like your job, do a different job.
I mean, the police force is woefully undertrained and overworked. They are thrown into a situation where they're usually in over their heads, and things escalate very quickly. But they're the ones that have a gun in their, in a holster.
You're right.
In many cases, the only one or one of several. But right now you're in a situation where you have to make these split-second decisions, right? And they're not prepared in many cases for what's going on. They're not trained properly, and also they've got the whole defund the police thing, not saying take their money away, meaning put it into better equipped people's hands to deal with these things. There's ways of de-escalating situations that police just aren't trained for and aren't the best people to do. They're being called for the reason why you call the police is that it's far too broad.
Yeah.
You call the police if your cat's stuck in a tree, and you call the police if your father's dimension's gone missing. You call the police if there's a black man at the park. I mean, they need to do it. Police do this to this. That's their range. That's when you call the police. Otherwise, you call somebody else.
Yeah, no.
And we need to have a 911 and a 912 and a 913, and like for whatever the case may be, you call the right people.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. There was an interesting thing I saw on. They were interviewing a captain from Camden County, New Jersey, and their department was receiving accolades because of the number of police involved shootings they didn't have, and the fact that they had employed some different organizations and consulting firms to specifically do enhance de-escalation techniques with their police and focus on community policing instead of just going out there and trying to lock people up for, because they have a dime bag of weed on them and stuff like that. So there are definitely ways to do it. And some place like Camden, New Jersey would be an example of that. One of the differences that I think of is, Dean, you'll remember this. Stephen, you probably wouldn't have heard of it. But 2 years ago, there was a guy named Alex Manassian who was in a white panel van, and he drove down Yonge Street, which is major street in Toronto, and
along the street in North America.
Yeah, along the street in North America. He went off of the road onto the sidewalk and just started running people over. I think he killed 7 people, injured like 15 or 16 others. And
that was right close to where my friend lives, and his mom was out at the time, like doing shopping, and he was like, "Oh my god, like that's right where my mom is."
He got out of the van and was confronted with police. He reached, and he was at gunpoint. He reached towards his back and pulled out like he had a gun, and he did this several times, trying to get the cop to shoot him. And the cop didn't shoot him. He was taken into custody alive. And so I think part of that is because there was, and I can't get into this cop's head, but I can't help but wonder if he was in the US that he would have had a different outcome, because, hey, there's a high possibility this guy does have a gun. Whereas in Canada, there's just less people walking around with guns. It's really hard to get a gun in Canada. Sure, you can get illegal guns, but there's basically one. It's called an FAC, or a Firearms Acquisition Certificate, and it's a massive application process, and you can easily be turned down because you don't have a constitutional right to a firearm in Canada. You don't have it. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically fucking impossible here. The weapons laws, like that we have here are like kind of just ridiculous. We don't have pepper spray is illegal here.
Oh, really?
Like, pepper spray is illegal here. Like, fucking nobody has a gun. There are like a couple of like farmers who own a shotgun, and that's it. And they have to, like, I'm pretty sure they have to like regularly check in. They have to keep an account. They have to keep like rigorous receipts of all of the ammo that they buy, and if they are subject to like a spontaneous check, if they, like, let's say that they have like one like round short of what they should have based on their receipts, they have to like fully explain why they are this round shot. Like, why did you shoot the gun? Like you know what I mean? So wow. It's incredibly difficult here. So like, there's just not that fear of, if you, because like there's a justified fear when you're in the States, if you're walking alone at night, if you're anyway kind of like afraid or a little bit weary or paranoid or anything else like that, you're kind of like looking at and like wondering, does that guy over the street, does he have a gun? I have never had that thought. It's never popped into my head because there's just no guns here. So like, look, I do have like some amount of empathy for police, but what they've done, it's just, I have empathy for them, but the state that they've gotten to and what they've done and how much, line crossing that they've done in the last couple of decades is, it's just too much.
And it's the fact that it's disproportionately affecting people of color is I mean, you can't get away from that. I mean, the amount of de-escalation is done when there's a white person on the offending side compared to the amount of de-escalation that's done when it's not. It's night and day. And I don't know. I really don't know how much more time needs to pass when this undercurrent of racism in America goes away. I don't know how much more we need to keep, how does it keep on perpetuating and growing? I don't understand it.
I used to be incredibly naive. I used to think that hate would die off, that all the that all these racist people would just they would die off, and that people would get smarter. Sounds harsh, but get smarter. And realize. Christopher Hitchens said something interesting in one of his discussions. He said, we need to get over this stupid concept of race and understand that we're all the human race. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. And like I said, I used to think it would die off, but the problem is that hate is taught. And so you have to find a way to stop teaching it, right? Just like fear, right? And I've said this before. It's like the reason the hate is taught is that if you put a black baby and a white baby in the center of a floor together with a bunch of toys, the white baby is not going to erect a hangman's gallows and put a hood over his head, right? Those things don't happen. They'll just play with each other because they're just kids, and who cares? You have to be taught to hate the same way you have to be taught to fear. That's why when the kid's reaching up towards the stove, you have to say no, hot, or you have to teach them to be leery of these things. And I don't know that there's an answer to your question. Education, but beyond that, I don't know.
But even education, I mean, when you look at the American education system, it kind of breeds and promotes racism, just the way the history books are written.
I don't have enough information.
I've seen shows about it. There's that one female teacher. She goes around to different schools and classes and stuff, and she runs these classes, or she used to at least, where she would split the class up. Like, she's dealing with younger kids, like probably like
the blue eyes, brown eyes, or was it blue eyes, green eyes experiment?
Yes. So blue eyes and brown eyes, and said all the blue-eyed people are, they have to come into class second. They wear these collars, and then she starts treating all the brown-eyed people better than she does the blue-eyed people. And of course, the blue-eyed kids get upset, and the brown-eyed kids, like at recess, the brown-eyed kids are making fun of the blue-eyed kids and saying how they're better and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it just devolves, like in a day, it devolves into this blue-eyed, brown-eyed, racist state. And then she brings them back in and says, like, it's wrong. What we're doing here is wrong. There's nothing different between.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the Stanford prison experiment was like the extreme end of that. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
No,
I've heard of it, but I don't have any knowledge about it.
Basically, there was like a certain section of Stanford College that psychologists and behavioral experts essentially not rented, but like booked off. They like kind of like met with the dean and everybody else, and they just said, okay, we want to just like cordon this area of the college off. And they were in there for 3 weeks, and they split the class evenly into guards and into prisoners. And they like basically said, you're playing the role of a prison guard and you're playing the role of a prisoner, and they just let them off. They didn't say, that like you had to treat them badly, or that like they didn't do anything where like they dressed them up as prisoners. So like that would be kind of the the collar equivalent, but they didn't say like how to treat them. They had to end it after 4 days, because the people who were playing the role of the prison guards beat the living shit out of their classmates who were playing the roles of the prisoners. And it just goes to kind of show this idea of, if you're put into this role where there's a stereotypical relationship between prison guards and prisoners, that otherwise, like, just normal people will act in grotesquely violent and just borderline evil ways for absolutely no reason other than that they were told that they were to take up the mantle of this role. Like, it was an insane. It is very much the extreme end of the Blue Eyes Green Eyes experiment, but just to kind of so there was a little bit of kind of conversation before this experiment took place. They were kind of learning about that experiment, about the eyes one, and there was some conversation. Somebody said, well, I mean, like, that's just kids, right? Like kids are gonna be like more susceptible to bullying, teasing, or like because that stuff happens when you're kids, right? But less so when you're adults. And so this experiment was devised to prove that the same thing happens with adults. And I mean, in a way, it was successful because it proved that it did. But
kind of a high price to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Wow.
And it's difficult. It kind of like, it makes you think that that's our basis instinct. Like, if you're put in a position of power, you're going to pick on the ones that don't.
Yeah.
Which is sad.
Mm-hmm.
if it's an instinct.
Yeah, and it's interesting. That's why when guys, I'm sure you're familiar with the philosopher John Rawls and his concept of the veil of ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if you because if you start out not knowing whether or not, like, it's almost like this experiment was doomed from the get-go as soon as they said prisoners versus guards, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because if you set out to design a system as a group of people not knowing where you're going to fall, that's when you'll be more likely to guarantee equity in that situation, because you don't know if you're going to fall on the line of prison guard or prisoner. It's like when you have everybody's heard the story about when your kid's sitting around the dinner table, right? And one of the kids says, okay, let me cut up the dessert, like, let me cut up the chocolate cake for dessert. And they say, okay, fine, you cut the cake, but the person who cuts the cake picks their piece last. Right. So kids will go out there with a fucking micrometer, to make sure that it's within like a picocentimeter. That's a measurement of time, but like within a millimeter, right? Because they want to make sure everything's totally equal. I don't want a smaller piece than anybody. So it just seems like that. I wonder if the people of that experiment had any concept as to how quickly it was going to devolve.
I genuinely don't know. It was a couple of years ago. It was in my first year of college that I learned about the Stanford Prison Experiment. But so like some of the details are kind of lost on me. I don't know, like, if they kind of knew ahead of time that this was gonna, it was going to be like that bad, or that it was going to escalate to that to that degree. But
I hope from an ethical perspective that they didn't know, right? Because to do something knowing, let's get 3 weeks, 4 days, that's it.
Yeah.
And then they switch the roles. Then they see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, it's time to switch shirts and skins. Wait, what?
Yeah.
No, not anymore. Not anymore.
I was trying to explain to my mom, like, the kind of situation that's happening in the States, and I so it was like almost like the kind of perfect alignment of scenario. So my cousin, who was born to Irish parents, so naturally she is the whitest of the white skinned, like borderline fucking albino. I mean, look at me, I'm pasty white. And her fiance is she's I don't know what like her ethnical background is, but like basically she's like, like super tanned the whole year round. She's not like out like some people would kind of classify her as black. Like the whole point is she's got more or less melanin. I don't know what the whole anyway, darker skin than my cousin.
Sure.
And I was kind of explaining to her, if my cousin and her fiance were to be arrested for the same crime, like identical scenarios, right? Both went into a convenience store with a gun, held up a store, robbed the place for the exact same amount of money, everything, identical situation. Statistically, my cousin would get a lighter sentence than her fiance purely based on the color of her skin.
Oh yeah, without question.
That is fucked up. That is fucked up. Like that's yeah.
I'll go you one further. There was a study that was done. There was a study that was done in Canada, and my wife was telling me about it because she had to go through the hiring process where she had to select a new staff member, and she referred to a study that had been done where they took the names off of resumes and interviewed people solely based on their qualifications. Yeah. Because they found that they were getting drastically different results of people getting through the screening process simply based on their names. Right?
Yeah.
Because someone who has an ethnic sounding name was somehow getting filtered out of the process.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you actually take the names off, and you until you've gone through the first round, until you said, okay, so I started out with 100 resumes, now I have 10. Once I have my short list of 10 based on qualifications, that's when you can find out what their names are and whether they are male, female, or other gendered.
Yeah, it's oh yeah, no, it was super fast. I heard about, I presume it was the same thing anyway. They had basically kind of like found out beforehand that like that names which were stereotypically African American, like Shaniqua or Jamarcus or any of these sorts of names, they were like far more likely to just be kind of tossed aside in favor of
Smith.
Yeah, Smith or John, or I hate to kind of throw you in, but Michael or like any of those
sure
types of...
I've walked into rooms where people are shocked at who walked in based on my name.
Yeah, see, like that's I don't know, man. That's just super. That's just super weird to me. Like it just like I don't know, man. I mean,
my parents left South Africa. Their main reason for leaving was apartheid, and they wanted a better life for their children. And one of the other reasons was that my dad was very good with numbers his whole life. He wanted to be an accountant. But he was barred from being an accountant by law. He was not white. He could not be an accountant. It was against the law for somebody who wasn't white to be an accountant. He also couldn't own a business, because he actually worked with another white man who had a business, and that white man was retiring. And he goes, if I could, I would pass the business on to you, but I'm not allowed. And he had to find some other white guy to take over his position.
That's messed up. I mean, Dean, I think you're weird, but I just know you better. So, man, I think you're weird. Yeah, that's messed up. That's messed up.
Yeah, like just this whole idea, like, and like, as you kind of said earlier, Michael, the Hitchens quote of like, like we need to kind of do away with this race thing because we're all part of the human race. Like, 100% fucking agree. And I saw somebody on Twitter from the atheist community. I won't necessarily say who, but they had basically kind of posted up and said that if Hitchens was still alive today, that he would be oh god, what exactly did they say? Like a gender denialist or something like that. That like they would that like he would basically be transphobic and that he would be like against people who were, you know, identifying as they them, or like people who were non-gender specific or any of these. And I'm just like, okay, so first off, just first off, you cannot possibly know that.
Yeah.
Secondly, why the fuck are you trying to like ruin the man, like to taint his legacy based on no fucking evidence? Like, how can you possibly know that he would be against this? He was ridiculously in favor of a same-sex marriage, of same-sex rights. He did a debate with Stephen Fry where he vigorously stood up for him. You know, like, yes, he turned very Republican towards the end of his life, but he was always very socially progressive. And I just don't. Why are you poisoning the well, man? Like, just like, why are you doing that? I just didn't get it at all. It was just super weird to me.
Yeah, it's actually interesting because
Dawkins come under fire recently for some anti-trans comment or something.
Oh yes, Dawkins 100% did. Yeah, no,
he has sadly said some really shit things. That and my hope is from that. It's funny because just to go back 1 second to the Hitchens thing, Stephen, you took the words out of my mouth. In that, if somebody said to me that this is how Hitch may have behaved, I would have referred him to that debate where he partnered with Stephen Fry, and said, you know, now watch that and then tell me how you think he may have acted.
Yeah.
But to move forward to Richard Dawkins, I would say that my hope would be is that they can separate the actions of the man from his science. Because regardless of the shit things that he has said, and he has said shit things, and he deserves condemnation for those shit things that he said, that doesn't make his science any less valid. It just makes him a bad person.
Yeah.
And that would be my hope, is that they don't try to say, oh, because he said all these horrible things and he's a bad person because of this. And I would agree with that sentiment. Well, because of that obviously means that all the things he said about evolution must be wrong as well.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah. So that would be my hope. But he has come under fire, and rightfully so, because the things he said were he hasn't, and I don't know whether he's walked any of them back. Because when I kind of heard it, I was very put off by the whole thing, and I was disappointed.
I'm gonna have to look it up because I don't even know what he did say.
Yeah, he came out with some pretty blatantly transphobic remarks.
Is that like recent? Like
pretty recent.
Fairly recent. Yeah, like in the last couple of weeks. He basically wrote. He made a tweet where he basically kind of said that like he was enjoying, or that like he had read and agreed with the work of Deborah Sow, which like she's been universally discredited. Like she's not a part of like the scientific community anymore. Basically, like she basically kind of said that like the whole idea of like, you know, your gender identity, like, you know, it would be her opinion that you are a man who identifies as being female, that you're not actually female if you're trans, right? That's basically her like go-to argument, or that's her stance, her position, or
it's somehow some kind of choice. And
yes.
And it's hard. Like it impacted me because at Imagine No Religion 7 in Toronto a few years ago, I was at the same table having lunch with Richard Dawkins. And we had pleasant conversations, and to be kind of hit by that, I was like, fuck, like, and to go back to Christopher Hitchens for just a second, he's one of the people that within the movement that I didn't get a chance to meet, and I was saddened by that. But I don't like the idea of someone trying to, discredit his legacy and stuff like that. And I just look at some of the people, because there have been people who have been leaders within the atheist community that have done fucked up good. And they deserve to be rebuked for it, and they deserve the condemnation that they that they receive. But again, the thing I would say about that is try to separate the science, because The Selfish Gene is no less a magnificent work, regardless of the things he said of recent.
Yeah, like just to kind of piggyback on that, like there was some things that you could have criticized Hitchens for. Like he did a debate. It was one of the last ones that he did on politics, where he defended the Iraq War. There are things that you can criticize Hitchens on.
Oh, absolutely.
But you can't criticize him, and you can't celebrate him, because we don't know how he would have felt. But to assume that he would have been against it is just why would you do that? But
no, not only, but they're assuming, and then they're going on complaining about how bad it would have been. You have no idea how he would have been on the stands.
Yeah, I obviously haven't met Dawkins or anything else like that, but Dawkins was the first person that I was introduced to in the atheist community, right? So like as soon as I kind of, fell out of religion and I start looking at the other side, he was the first person that I watched and that I listened to, and that I watched him debate and everything else like that. And, from him, then I went on to Hitchens, and then I found like smaller YouTubers, and then I found the ACA and everything else like that. Mm-hmm. But he was the first. And so I kind of like in a way, in my kind of like earlier YouTube career, I kind of credited Dawkins as the first step in going down the road to where I was talking about religion all the time. And then, like just kind of waking up on that day where he tweeted that out and seeing that he was getting ratioed and that so many people were quote tweeting him and replying to it, and like then hearing like exactly what it was. Yeah, I was the exact same, Michael. I was just saddened. Yeah, I just felt disappointed and sad.
No, disappointed. That's perfect. And you almost have to, almost have to. I think what I did is the word I would choose is I mourned. That I was just kind of like, oh, like that. I wish that hadn't happened. I wish he would have not said these things. I wish he would have been different, felt different, believed different. But we don't have any control over that, right? I mean, sometimes, and that was one of the reasons, oddly enough, Hitchens said he was doing another talk, and he said, I don't like meeting my fans. And when people kind of cock their head like, what do you mean you don't like meeting your fans? He said, because fan is just one syllable short of fanatic. And he said, I don't want people to be fanatic about me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was interesting. So he had he humbling himself in a way.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, could he have been? I mean, he wrote some interesting stuff. I've read everything he ever wrote that was ever published. Like I'm not talking about his Slate articles and stuff like that, but every novel, like whether it be from his memoir Hitch 22 or Mortality, Why Orwell Matters, No One Left to Lie To, which is his criticism of the Clintons, his book on Mother Teresa, the name escapes me now. Which was just absolutely scathing and brilliant and beautiful. But
of course, God is not great.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
And of course, God is not great. Yeah. So, but it, I mean, you can. I think it might be because he was so vocal, and some of the debates that he had, like with guys like William Lane Craig, where if you watch a Christian apologist review that debate, Craig slaughtered Hitchens. If you watch someone secular, Hitchens slaughtered Craig. And of course, I believe Hitchens did win that debate. But it seems that because he's gone now and has been for 10 years, it's almost like it's the low-hanging fruit, right?
Yeah.
Easy to go after. Let's drag this guy's name through the dirt who can't stand up for himself and defend himself anymore and say, actually, I don't believe that. And who's to say? And I think at the end of the day, I'm glad I don't know.
Yeah. It's like if Dawkins never said anything, then we wouldn't think any lesser of him.
Yeah, exactly. And like, yeah, as I kind of said before, like, I don't have any sort of a problem criticizing somebody based on the, beliefs or the opinions that they actually vocalize, but pretending to know how somebody would have thought about a situation or about like a movement that exists today when they died a decade ago, like how, like, the amount of like 4D chess that you have to play to be able to extrapolate, like how, like, yeah, like I don't know, I just don't. I'm more than comfortable criticizing somebody for what they actually believe, but pretending to know what somebody might have thought about something and then criticizing them for it, no. You're just sitting in a room facing the corner of the wall and like just like fucking ranting to yourself. That's literally the fucking equivalent of it.
It seems odd that they would pick him out too, because I mean, you could just pick anybody that's dead. Like, say that I think that Marilyn Monroe would have been really against trans people. It's like, how do you know who?
He was one of the 4 horsemen of the atheist apocalypse, though. So I mean, he was, he was a good one to aim for. But it would be the same as someone else, someone else from the atheist community, saying something like, I bet you Billy Graham would have been okay with child rape. I bet you he would have been really keen. I bet you he would have been really keen on that. How could you possibly know? And I doubt very seriously that would be the case anyway. I mean, so
not too many people that are behind that one, Michael.
Yeah,
but I don't know. It's just like I forgot. I was going to say something, and that's the point after escaping me. That's very sad. But it's
your PS5 in the background.
It's just the whole thing. It's just the whole thing about my dad actually got one today. So there's 2 members of my family who have one. But it's like you can literally do that about anybody dead, and just pick a thing that they might not have agreed with. You can say fucking FDR would have agreed with the war on drugs. Sure, why not? Just say it, because it's just you're just saying things and then pretending as if it's correct. Like,
Einstein would have hated pineapple on pizza.
Yeah.
Oh, I do want pizza though.
George Bush's dad, he would have loved pineapple on pizza. Like,
hey,
what? Like,
them's fighting words.
But it's just like. Just picking a person and then picking a position and then just shoving the two together, like you don't.
Yeah. You know who'd be really good? I got to bring this up, but who would have been really good at doing that type of thing? Your friend and mine, Mr. DD.
Yeah.
Yep.
With what now?
Oh, with just picking somebody out and saying, "Oh, I'm sure that they would support X, Y, or Z."
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I was watching. There's a great YouTube channel. I'm sure most people are aware of it. Tom Rabbit.
Yeah.
He takes all kinds of clips from that incredibly nefarious individual, and just puts them out there, and it's hysterical to watch.
Yeah.
It's truly hysterical to watch. He invited after our only interaction, he invited me to his Discord server, and this was after James had hit the stop button in the recording. We were just in the background, kind of saying goodbye to everybody. And he's like, "Oh, you should come by there." And I'm like, "Man, it's like I'm not going anywhere where you're in charge, dude. Like, I could barely get a word in edgewise here. You think I'm going to go somewhere where you can mute me or kick me? The hell with you."
Yeah, there was a debate that it wasn't James himself. It was Converse Contender had on MDD's channel. Darth Dawkins came back to MDD 2 months ago or something like that, and he was debating a guy. I didn't have any previous knowledge of him, but he actually did like a really good job debating him. Like a really good. Like I was actually kind of surprised about how well it was. Maybe I wouldn't have been had I have like known who he was before the actual debate, but I don't know. He's done a brilliant job. Leo, who I was supposed to, who I had asked to come here, he sparred with Darth twice.
I know, and I was looking forward to discussing that with him because he was much more of a glutton for punishment than I was actually getting into it a second time. But what I found entertaining about that was how like towards the end of it, he was having a hard time containing his laughter. Leo was.
Yeah.
And
He
was laughing at just how unbelievably obtuse Darth was being. And it was funny to watch. I have a lot of time. I've spent some time watching Leo's work more recently, and I've got a lot of time for him because he's a young dude, but man, he's really smart.
Oh my god, dude, he's incredibly smart. Yeah, as I had said on Twitter, like he puts my fucking religious debates to shame, man. He really, 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 really knows his stuff. You know, he like doesn't get on with everybody. I'm in some circles who have like had him on, and like people do kind of find him a little bit irritating, I guess. And like, look, I've never had an issue with Leo. So, but yeah, no, I fucking love the dude. He's just incredible.
We've only been on a stream at the same time once, and I think it was here. It may have been Math Pig. But it was here or there. We've only been on a stream once at the same time, and but I've invested some time watching his stuff. Dean, if you're not familiar, his name's Leo Filius. Yeah, he's a young man, but at least he appears quite young.
Yeah, I think he's the same age I am.
Yeah,
there might be a couple of months either side. I don't know if he's actually older or younger than me, but.
Yeah, he's a smart dude. I've quickly gained a lot of respect for him and the way he taught. And I say only in jest that that he was a glutton for punishment to step into the quote unquote ring with DD again, because he's such an asshat. I can't do it again. I can't do it again. There's not only is there no reason, but he's not Josh Bowen. For everybody who's not familiar, Dr. Joshua Bowen, go check out Digital Hammurabi. He's unbelievably smart. He's got a bunch of books out there. Take some time and invest in him. He's got some great content. Josh posted something about having an interaction with Darth Dawkins. And,
oh shit!
And I commented on it, and I said, he's like this paradox. He is simultaneously a bully and a coward.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting because, and one of my favorite things, and there's this little piece of like guilty pleasure. Like I hope somehow he gets word of this and watches this. Hey, how are you? I'll never speak to you again. But one of the favorite things that he says is he calls people out and he calls them cowards. He says, I'm going to say it to your face, which is ironic because he's never said anything to anybody's face because he doesn't show his face.
Yeah.
And so I find that pretty cowardice. But then he also bullies because he's always, don't overtalk. That's his favorite line. It's going to be his epitaph, right? That's going to be what it is. Don't overtalk me, from 6 feet under. But he's just a waste of time. Yeah, I'd be curious to. And have you got anybody in the live chat?
There's a few people there. There's a few people there, I think.
Hey, live chat.
Have you guys seen the video that somebody made of Darth Dawkins' Christmas album?
Oh no.
Yeah, we're going to unfortunately we're going to subject ourselves to this.
Oh no.
It's super, and I mean super funny. So yeah, let's go.
I'm mildly aroused.
Oh,
holiday. Grab some eggnog. Let's gather around the fireplace.
Are you guys able to hear that?
And
yes.
celebrate the birth of our
okay,
blessed
it's just something
Lord
on my end. Then was I can't hear it, but I've heard it a bunch of times.
Of a very special Darth Dawkins Christmas collection. 753 wonderful hits.
Here we go. Shut the fuck up. You're totally clueless, so stop with the shtick. Don't ever talk me, you're being rude. I'm old enough to be your fucking father, dude. Shut the fuck up.
All your favorites are here, in one spectacular collection.
You come into my room, mute me. Restore my mic, you fucking troll. Doobie's a fucking asshole. I can't tolerate anymore. I've had to quit this server 4 fucking times before.
Digitally remastered and expertly rendered in high-quality audio. Never before has such a splendid compilation been put together.
So the problem with homosexuals is that God made male for females. The Bible is very clear. Don't be queer, don't be queer, don't be queer. Thank you.
That is fucking brilliant.
Bing, 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 bing.
Order with your credit card in the next 30 minutes, and if you manage to successfully render an argument for intelligibility within your godless worldview, you'll receive a beautifully decorated King James Bible, along with your own personally autographed copy of Dawkins' Presuppositionalist Guide, Crushing Atheism. Absolutely free. Merry Christmas, and a blessed New Year.
Boom! You're not server muted. Get out of my room.
Oh, it's just fantastic. It's like every single bit of it is just brilliant. But yeah, such a funny.
The Bible is very clear. Don't be queer. Don't be queer.
Don't be queer.
Stephen, thank you. That was everything. That was everything. Wow, that was great. I'm sure he had. I'm not now. What I want to do is I do want to join his Discord server just to spam links to that.
Oh, he's seen it. He's seen it.
Oh, has he?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. He's seen it. He actually finds it funny.
It is pretty funny.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is. Yeah, even though it is kind of poking fun at him. Like, how could you not find that funny?
Maybe he's not smart enough to understand people aren't laughing with him.
Mm-hmm.
But they're laughing at him. So, which is, maybe that little tidbit of truth escapes him. That was really good. That was really good. Hey, so like I was chatting with you before, I've been having I've had a number of conversations now with CJ Cox.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah. Like, you guys seem to be kind of tweeting back and forth and stuff like that. Yeah, there seems to be a little bit of a productive relationship between you guys.
Yeah, it's productive relationship. It's like hate fucking, a little bit. Hate fucking without the donkey punches. But it's so it's kind of like it's weird because we are diametrically opposed, right? We couldn't have more different worldviews. And yet there are things that we agree on. Like he posted a video of basically a police officer murdering some suspect, like just shot and it was a white dude. Like it was a guy from SWAT because he had like a big ass rifle, and he was told to do something, and he was told to basically move forward on his knees with his hands behind his Was
this
his head.
in a hotel room hallway?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It was an extremely viral case that was like a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. But yeah, it was. Oh, that was. Yeah.
but the guy lost his balance and basically fell. Like he couldn't, and the cop just murdered him, like just right there, like shot him 6 or 7 times. I was just like, it was brutal. And
yeah, but he had something like "you're fucked" etched into the side of his gun. Like literally carved into the side of his gun. Yeah, like something like "you're fucked" or like "you're gonna die" or something like that. Like he was literally out for blood. Like that's just, it wasn't just that case. It's like pretty much every case involving him.
Yeah, but my reason for bringing that up was because there have been several things to which we have found common ground on. Like he said, "Oh, yeah, what do you think about this?" I'm like, "This is how I feel." He's like, "Oh, I kind of agree." So he's come on the podcast when Dean wasn't able to be there, and he actually was on the podcast once with the two of us as well, Dean. And I mean, we've had these conversations, and it's been it's been weird. We finally had a discussion just a couple of days ago about worldviews, where we came to disagreement. But it's interesting because I received a couple of messages about people saying, how can you talk to somebody like CJ Cox? Because apparently some of his political views are really, really ultra right-wing, hyper conservative, which wouldn't be surprising because he identifies as an evangelical fundamentalist Christian. So not surprising. We've not had a discussion about politics. Like we haven't gone down that hole. So I'm just like, well, we've been talking about these things, and so that hasn't come up. So I don't know whether a political discussion is in our future, and whether or not that would be somewhere where I'd have to, part ways with him, if he's got views that are that, either radical. Well, maybe they'd just be like Ted Cruz. Maybe they'd just be radically boring. It wouldn't be that big a deal. But it's been interesting having conversations with him, and I've said this before to lots of people, and I'll say it again. Ironically, I have a fair amount of respect for fundamentalist Christians. So guys like Steven Anderson, who are just walking sacks of garbage, they are waste of space. Stop using my oxygen, please. They're horrible human beings, if you can call them that. But they have the courage of their convictions, right? They say, this is what the Bible says, and this is what I follow. I have more respect for that than some of the backflipping gold medal gymnastics that some apologists do to try to sidestep and say, well, you're taking a context. Well, you have to understand the language of the time. Well, you have to understand how people live. Well, you have to, you don't understand the moon was in a particular phase when they said that. And so if you look at it, fuck off.
And it wasn't really slavery. It was happy, nice, magical slavery. Yeah.
Exactly. So I have more respect for the fundamentalist that says this is what it says, and so that's what I follow. I mean, I still think that they're wrong and horrible for those things, but I do have more respect for the fundamentalists than I do for the kind of flapping in the breeze apologist who will try to explain away everything. I mean,
I think like Steven Anderson though, he's like an attention whore. Like he says those outrageous things so people will pay attention to him. I don't know if he actually believes it.
You were one word too much there, just whore. I think is probably enough. He said, "I have strong opinions." Stephen, you're aware of it.
Pressing a button to kill gay people until your finger breaks. I mean, that's just like.
Yep. It's really interesting. Oh, speaking of fundamentalists, I'm sure a lot of people have heard about the disappearance of your friend and mine, Mr. Saiten Bruggencate.
Disappearance?
Well, yeah. So
I didn't hear about this.
Right. Okay. So here's newsflash.
Yeah.
So there was basically his church, which is in Tillsonburg, Ontario, which is not too far from us, Dean. Really, like it's just the other side of London, Ontario. He has been basically removed. He has disappeared off social media. He is ghosting like Swayze. If you try to find him, like his Twitter account is disabled, or at least the last time I looked, disabled and deleted. You can't find him anywhere. His website has gone back to the under construction screen, which is Absolute Apologetics, I think is his website. So basically, he was accused of sexual immorality with a vulnerable person. Now that's it.
Oh, I think I did hear about that actually.
We don't know whether this was a person who was like a member of a vulnerable community, or whether it was, or whether they've labeled this person vulnerable because, like, you know, this person went to Psy for counseling or something, like for like religious counsel, and they were vulnerable in that way. So there's no more information. I actually have Psy's phone number, and I tried to reach out to him. I don't know what I expected, but he didn't answer my call. And I mean, before I knew the details of this, you know, kind of sexual immorality, which, I mean, from a fundamentalist perspective, there could have been a husband and wife that separated, and the wife went to Psy and they had sex together. Like, that could be as much as the sexual immorality as the church needs. We don't actually know whether he did something that was truly illegal or truly immoral. We don't know.
Why is he ghost with himself on social media though? That's kind of like disappeared at a like he's not even trying to defend himself.
My thought would be out of repentance. No, I'm being dead serious, because I mean, Dean, you and I sat. You know, he was he's three feet away from us in our studio, and you know, there are lots of people who I think are dishonest. You know, Ken Hovind, he knows he's lying. Ken Ham, he knows he's lying. Ray Comfort, dishonest prick. I do not. I think Psy is wrong, but I do not believe that Psy Ten Bruggencate is dishonest. I believe he truly believes all the things that he says. And I think that whatever it was, if the accusation is true or something like that, that he removed himself, because I mean, his church didn't shut down his social media.
No,
right? He would have had to have done that by himself, and so I think he probably did it to, like, you know, out of a form of kind of genuine repentance. That would be my thought. I just hope the allegations aren't true, because I don't want somebody to have been a victim, right? If the allegations are true, that means that there's a victim out there, and I don't want there to be a victim. But anyway, so that's the newsflash. If you didn't know about that.
Yeah, I definitely do kind of remember hearing something along those lines, or like something to do with that a little while ago, but I don't know. It was probably just because I just didn't hear anything kind of following that up. It just kind of slipped under my radar, or like something else kind of came up that I was, you know.
Yeah, I mean he dropped right off the face of the planet, like just gone. Like, if I didn't know better, I think he was raptured.
So that's what I was going to say before. He said that he was accused of wrongdoing sexually.
Yeah. Whoa, I can't believe an hour and a half has flown by already.
Yeah, I was just about to say, guys. Yeah, we've been going for a pretty long time.
Any questions or comments from the live chat?
Yeah, sure. We'll just kind of say it. We'll give him a minute or so to kind of type something up. So like this is going to be my kind of like official kind of announcement of this. I've done a few streams in between like this and now, and just kind of haven't mentioned it. But so I went to my counselor a couple of months ago, and you know, like she basically kind of like asked me, you know, like if I had been tested for like this or that and the other thing, and I said no, and I met with a psychotherapist and with a behavioral therapist, and a couple of weeks ago I was diagnosed as having high functioning Asperger syndrome. So technically speaking, I'm autistic. Didn't really kind of know how to, like, it's sort of just like, my whole kind of reaction to it was just like, well, like, what do I do now? Like, I don't really know, like, what you want me to do with this information. So, like, but yeah, it was just kind of, I don't know. It's just kind of strange, you know? Like, it doesn't really, I get it now. Like, there's been like several stuff, like in work especially, where like how I react to, so like basically if I have more than one person talking to me at the same time, that's like literally just like sensory overload for me, and I freak the fuck out. I just like everybody just shut the fuck up. Okay. You talk to me, I'll deal with you, and now you talk to me, and I'll you know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. There's like a bunch of other examples I could kind of point to, but yeah.
I think that's about it. It gives you a reason or a way to explain certain things, like the multiple people talking to you at the same time, but it really shouldn't affect the way that you conduct yourself in any way. It'll give you a reason.
It hasn't so far. It's just kind of,
yeah. But I mean, I believe that there are far more people on the autism spectrum that are actually said, these are the people with autism. I knew somebody that I worked with that his son was autistic, like, diagnosed autistic, and he had a lot of problems with his son, like trying to contain him and stuff like that. But for sure, this guy that I worked with had autism. It was autistic as well, for sure. He his very socially, not really awkward, but not knowing when to stop. Like if he had an issue, like he'd wait, he'd keep an eye out to see the person he wanted to talk to. As soon as they entered the room, like he'd go right up to you and start talking. It's like, let me take my coat off. I just got here. Or he'd follow you into the men's room. And while you're standing at the urinal, he's still talking. It's like, no, this is my private time.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I would say to that is, of course, I always have to make jokes, right? So I didn't think you were any crazier than any other Irishman I'd ever met. You've got
a certain leeway with being Irish.
Fair. No.
I mean, you're halfway there. You're halfway there. But I would say, but on a serious note, I would say, I commend your bravery and your honesty, because the stigmas attached to mental health disorders are huge. They can be incredibly cumbersome, and it takes a lot of fucking guts to admit that. And I also thank you, and I don't mean this come across in some weird way, but I'm honored that you picked a time when we were on to come forward with something like that. So thank you for that. And I love you, brother. And if there's ever anything, I mean, what the fuck can I do from 3,000 miles away? But, of course, if there's ever
you could send me money. That's all that, I have a PayPal for a reason.
Then certainly know that you've always got a couple of crazy fucking Canadian friends.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, thanks,
guys. One crazier, more crazy than the other.
I haven't really kind of like.
I wasn't going to say that about Dean, but
I thought I'd be open as well, because I'm that shit.
Yeah, no, I haven't let it like affect the way that like I conduct myself and stuff like that. Like how I deal with like trauma. I was saying this in the debate that I did on Wednesday. It was a super chat question. It didn't like come up naturally, obviously, because it was on politics. But like how I deal with like grief is I just make jokes. Like it's just how I deal with it. And I said as well, like I know that for a lot of people, kind of like, if a loved one dies, just for example, that like it might be like super, appropriate for them, or like that's how they deal with it, to sit around a kitchen table drinking tea and feeling sorry for themselves and crying the whole day. That may be your way of dealing with grief, and I'm not going to stop you. But that just doesn't work for me. I don't feel any better or worse for having done that. So like how I deal with it is I just make jokes, and I've made jokes like all day, every day, ever since like the first day that I found out that I have Asperger's syndrome, I turned to my mom and I was just like, I wonder if I can get one of those like parking badges that said you can work anywhere, like one for the like fucking disabled people. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. Like it's just how I deal with it. I don't.
Yeah.
I
don't think that's unusual. There was I remember watching one comedian one time. It was on I think it was actually on that show, Last Comic Standing, the reality TV show. And there was one comedian who had cerebral palsy. And he was standing up there, and he said he was doing a stand-up skit. And one of the jokes that he said that absolutely killed, of course, he was the only one to get away with saying it. He said, in high school, I was voted most likely to get the best parking spot. And it was just, and so different people anyway, different people deal with grief in different ways, and I think I think as long as you don't go as far as turning the corpse of your loved one into a fucking marionette, probably haven't gone too far, right? Because grief affects people in different ways. Like I did not cry at my father's funeral, but I was a fucking basket case at my mother's.
Yeah, I think grief is a very personal thing, and deal with it.
It affects everybody differently. Affects everybody.
I mean, I know a personal friend of mine who told me something very like when his mother was going through a medical issue, and he told me about it, and he was laughing the whole time he was telling me about it. So I just naturally thought he was joking. I was like, "Why would you joke about this?" And he was like, "No, I'm serious," but he's laughing, right? Because that was just it was affecting him in a way, and coming out about it was also affecting him, and he was just laughing at the time.
Probably a defense.
So it's everybody acts differently, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't even know if I cried at my sister's funeral, but like before and after is just like piles of tears.
Yeah, you just your body just goes, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and sometimes you're just along for the ride, I think.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, way to bring the fucking stream down, man.
Right. No, like buzz, man.
To kind of in an effort to kind of bring it back.
I ate 12 edibles beforehand for this.
In an effort to kind of bring it back up, and we haven't had any questions from the live chat, so we'll kind of like say our goodbyes after that. Sure. One of the other questions that I got was like I had talked about how I've done stand-up comedy a heap of times on stream, and this one username that I didn't actually recognize but had obviously watched my streams, the super chat that he said was, like, you've done this, like, is there any, like, do I think that there's any, like, topics that are off limits? And, okay, so I don't, but then he super chatted afterwards and he asked, could I tell a joke right there and then? And I was like, dude, like, put me on the fucking spot. Like, I did not expect it to come up. So I came up with what I personally think is, like, one of, like, the weakest jokes that I personally have. Like, my sense of humor is pretty dark. Like, well, that's what other people say. I don't really consider it to be that dark. The joke that I said was, what does a Make-A-Wish child and a carton of milk have in common? An expiration date. So, like, but dude, James's face as soon as I said that was just like, oh my god! Like, I was just like, okay, dude, that is like the very, 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 very tip of the iceberg of my sense of humor. You do not want to see me live because, oh god. But
well, I mean, like, there are comedians that do claim that there are no topics that are safe. They're like, you can make fun of everything. Like Louis C.K. is one of those guys. One of my favorites.
Ricky Gervais is another.
Ricky Gervais. I was just going to say that.
But I mean, Louis C.K. He said that child rape or anything like that, it shouldn't be seen as so badly. Like, if we didn't think that people who did that were so bad, then there probably wouldn't be as much child rape and murder. They would just rape them. They wouldn't murder them as well. I mean, that's going way deep.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
He's like saying, if it wasn't so bad, then they wouldn't feel that they had to kill them too.
Exactly. Or so says the representative of the Catholic Church.
Exactly. But I mean, that's the darkest joke I've heard from like somebody who's on the national stage.
Yeah,
that's pretty funny.
Probably one of the like other and weirdly so it was kind of on the same lane was the SNL monologue that he had like 4 or 5 years ago, where he was like, if people told me that if I ate a Mounds bar again, that I would go to jail and everyone would hate me, I would stop doing it. So you can only surmise that from their point of view, like from a child rapist's point of view, like it must be really good, like from their point of view. It's like for them to risk so much, and it was just, oh my god, he's doing this on SNL. This is on like cable TV.
Yeah, but it's live cable TV. That's the problem.
Exactly. That's yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm sure Lorne Michaels was kicking himself for
He also has that but maybe routine where he says that
yeah, of course, but maybe.
yeah. And he's like, of course, like people with nut allergies, we need to be aware that they have nut allergies, and of course we need to try and separate their foods from places where nuts are touched, and we should, of course, in schools we should ensure that nobody brings any kind of nuts and stuff like that. But maybe if touching a nut kills you, you should be dead. Maybe.
Yeah, it's so weird. That's here's an interesting segue. If I couldn't have had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches probably 3 days a week in school, what would I have eaten?
Yeah.
Like they're just
every single day in my entire grade school career, I had peanut butter and jam for lunch. Every single day. And my mom would ask me, what do you want for lunch? I'd be like, she goes, don't you want something else? And I was like, no. Peanut butter and jam every single day my entire grade school career.
Wow.
And I still love it today.
Oh yeah, it's good, yeah. But is it crunchy or smooth?
I go through phases. It's mostly smooth, but I do go through phases of crunchy. But then I also have I decide whether it's toasted or just regular bread, whether it's closed or open. These are all. Have
you ever tried making it with cookie butter?
What?
Cookie butter. You can buy cookie butter. Well, there's a reason it's fat.
Cookie butter.
So,
I live 5 minutes away from this guy. I don't know what cookie butter is. Yeah.
So
we're talking about your girlfriend now.
Yeah. Don't tell Shannon. Jesus. So that's my wife, for everybody. But no, it's in like with the condiments, right? So there's peanut butter jam, and then there's this stuff called cookie butter, which has like little chunks of cookie inside, like cookie dough peanut butter stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never even noticed that at the store.
Yeah.
Cookie butter. I'm gonna look it up now and just take a look.
Don't steal my fucking cookie butter, man. There's a line. There's a fucking
never
line,
heard of
man.
it. I've never even heard of it.
Yeah. I first saw it at Trader Joe's. Anybody watching from the US knows what Trader Joe's is. It's like a little boutique grocery store. But President's Choice started getting it up here.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, PC cookie dough. Cookie.
You say it's in the condiments or is with the peanut butters and stuff?
It's with the peanut butter and shit.
Okay.
I have a comment there for you, Michael.
Stoner's best friend.
Best friend.
So I joked about the edibles. I've never done pot in my life in any way, shape, or form.
I can tell that by the fact that you said that you've never done pot. You don't do pot. You smoke it. So
I have led an exceedingly delightfully boring life. And so I've never. It's funny when they legalized pot in Canada, and I had a couple people ask me like, "Oh, what are you gonna do?" I'm like, "I'm gonna use it now as much as I did yesterday. Like, this has no effect on me. As long as they can test for it, and make sure people don't drive when they're high. I don't give a fuck." So yeah, all it's really gonna do is make sure the fast food restaurants have peaks at about 11:30 at night. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure Taco Bell's doing great. Yeah. But yeah, that's not mine. I think I heard that joke. So another comedian said that somewhere. So I don't want to take.
But it'll stop. Sending innocent people who are high to jail. I mean, just like let people fucking smoke.
Yeah, because I mean, dealing in Canada is still illegal. You can't traffic it. But I mean, you can.
The thing is, if you want to smoke pot, you're gonna smoke pot. It doesn't matter. Whether there's a law against it or not. If you want to smoke it, you're going to smoke it. If you don't, you won't. So what's the problem?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh no, but it's a gateway drug, though. No.
Well, I mean,
it's a gateway drug to what? Cartoons and fucking pizza? Like, shut the fuck up. Like, just stop. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about you or like I'm not really into the drug scene. I don't know, but I don't really think that the person that you get your weed from would have access to heroin or cocaine. Like do you buy that from the same person?
Well, I think if you're
I don't, or at least I haven't.
I mean, if you were getting pot and they had heroin, cocaine, why wouldn't you just get that?
Yeah, like
Right,
if you have
no,
the
I'm just saying,
option
it's
of
a gateway
heroin and
drug, so
cocaine,
you're gonna-
then why would you settle for pot? Like, why would you do that?
No, we're just saying, like, it's a gateway drug.
Why
so
would you
take
go?
a couple of hits
Why
of,
would you?
of a
Why
doob,
would
and then
you
you're
have
like, hey.
the option of, okay, if I take this, I will clean my entire house in 10 minutes, or I will veg on the couch for 4 hours just fucking eating and watching TV. Like, why wouldn't you go for the second one?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's like going to the restaurant that has cheese sandwiches, chef salads, and hamburgers. Nobody's getting a fucking cheese sandwich or a fucking chef salad.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting a fucking hamburger.
Mm. Yeah. It's
Unless
like
you're
going to a
vegetarian,
prostitute
you
for a
get
hug.
meatless burger.
It's like going
Yeah,
to a
exactly.
prostitute for a hug. It's like
That's an overpriced hug.
That's an overpriced hug, yeah. Yeah. It's a well, yeah, because you have the price list, right? There's a, here's what it is for a hug.
It's the menu.
yeah.
Here's the hug with my hand down your pants. Here's the, here's all the different ones, right?
It depends what you want me to hug.
Yeah, exactly. Jeez, you got big problems if somebody can hug
I
your
was
dick.
just gonna say.
I'm just saying.
I
Well,
want
what are they
that-
hugging with, too, right?
Is that a problem? Like,
Yeah, I've got them.
maybe a little one,
in my
but
skin.
Yeah,
Is that a problem?
is that a problem?
to some people, maybe, to some, but
Yeah, but yeah, Stephen, you and I are white, so we don't.
I mean, statistically. Oh. Anyway, guys, this has been genuinely so much fun.
Yep. Hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah. So go and I will leave a link to the CA podcast
Gracias.
Facebook thing, and what was I going to say? So like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that YouTuber bollocks, and we will talk to you in the next one.